How you doing, guys? This is Kevin. I'm back with another video. This video is on that fuller we've been working on, and I've been listening to all the comments and everything that's being said. And one of the comments was that they thought I didn't have enough travel on that to be able to beat the metal down. I needed a little bit more space. So for you guys that think I am so good at this stuff, I'm going to show you how stupid I am, and I'm going to show you what I did. But we're going to fix it. We always fix everything, so we're going to fix it and fix the problem, and I'll show you what I did. You're not going to believe this. So what I did is I heated this up with a torch, and I figured I'd bend this up a little bit to give me a little more space between this over here, and I cooled it off in water. Not cool, but we'll fix it. Like I said, we can fix anything. So I broke it. Now I'm gonna make a new one, and I'm gonna change a little bit up here. So maybe it was a good thing, I don't know. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna drive this pin out. I'm gonna go ahead and drive this pin out, get this out of here. And we had that extra piece I was gonna beat into a knife. Well, we're gonna go ahead and make another one out of that piece there. Well, we're back on track now. I actually put a bigger kink in here so I can beat on the top of this right here. That way the pressure is going more straight down. Now I'll straighten this up when I grind it off. We'll get it to look exactly like that one. We have a little bit higher on this, a little bit higher. And like I said, when we beat on it, we'll be beating up here. Instead of welding something on the end, I pushed it back a little bit so it's going more straight down. Plus, I forged out a little knife here, and we'll just build us a little knife, and we'll try to put a fuller in it just to see how it works. So I'm going to let that stuff cool down, and we'll get to finishing up after it cools off. Now that this thing is cooled down, what I'm going to do is go ahead and dress up both ends of this while I can still take this piece out. I want to make sure I can dress them up, and then I'm going to try to temper them. I'm a little bit weary about the tempering because I broke the one, but I think that might have been from me putting it in the water. So we're going to try. We're going to give it a try, and we'll see what happens with them. So right now I'm just going to work on dressing these two ends up and getting them to exactly where I want them. And then we'll try the heat treat. Now I've worked this over the belt sander a little bit to clean it up on some finer paper, and now I'm just hand sanding, trying to get all the scratches from the sandpaper out of it because I didn't want it to be transferred over to my knife. Okay, now I got them cleaned up, and I think I got them looking pretty much as identical as I can. A couple of the questions was there any space in here? I do have some space in there. I was worried just a little bit about having too much space in there. So I've probably got about 3/8, maybe a little more, maybe real close to 1/2 inch there. Now I'm a little bit worried about tempering them. Because I broke the one and I cooled it down in water, but it wasn't red hot. And now I'm kind of worried about that breaking these tips off, because if I treat these, heat treat these, I possibly can be destroying it. And I'm not great at it, but we're going to give it a shot, and I just wanted to heat treat the tips if I could. So I'm going to give it a shot. I mean, it will be a pain though if we have to redo this whole thing again. And I will get it till I get one to work. So I think we're ready to heat treat. Now I'm not going to put the pin in this one yet, back in the back, until I get it heat treated, because it'll be easier for me to get these in the forge like they are if I pull them apart. So let's go ahead and start the heat treat process here. Well, we're just getting ready to temper the fuller, and I decided on the last knife I built there, I needed to change my bottle gas tank out. So I'm going to go ahead, I got my bottle gas tank changed out. I did a short video on the bottle gas tank. Guys, check it out. Anyhow, we're going to fire up the forge and get this thing going. I'm running both of my burners in there this time because that one piece of steel here is pretty big, and I'm going to have a hard time getting it in there to get it tempered. I'm just going to try to temper the tip, the front part of it. So that's what we're doing. It's the best I can do. I hope this works. Well, we got these guys cooling off. I just laid them on this log. I'm going to let them cool off until you can touch them with your hand. And I do have a little tool that I'm using. I'm going to make a little video on it. It's just a laser pointer. It tells you the temperature of the metal before you touch it. It'll tell you whether you can touch it or not. I mean, it's totally up to you how hot you want, but I like to let it cool off as much as I can. This is still about 250 degrees, so you just definitely wouldn't want to touch any of this. This one over here is running about 80 some degrees, so I know that I can touch that piece of metal. So this is something I'm using here. I'll do a little video on it. While I'm waiting for this thing to cool off, I figure I'd jump in here and put some of the comments out there. Now, Bill, you left me a comment saying something about putting some flat pieces on the bottom to keep this thing from wobbling back and forth. That's a very good idea. I've actually thought about that, but my thing is I want to see if this thing works first. If it does work and I see that it's bouncing around, I'm going to definitely put something underneath there to keep that standing up straight. And Frank, you said something about bending the bolts over. I would have bent these over, but they're not long enough. I don't have long enough bolts yet. What I'll do is I'll get me some longer bolts, put some in there and get them bent over. That's definitely a must. I wouldn't want to get a wrench every time I'd want to tighten it down, but I can't forget, if I'm going to use the locking nuts, I have to be able to tighten them down too, so I'm going to have to use a wrench on them. But it's a good idea. We're going to do something like that if this guy works. Another comment I had there. When you do this to a leaf spring, does it still have its spring? That's a good question. I hope it does. That's why I'm doing it out of the leaf spring. But I don't know for sure. Like I said, I'm new to this stuff too. A lot of you guys that are following me on this stuff, if you don't know what I'm doing, honestly, I really don't know a lot about what I'm doing. I'm just doing it to the best that I can. So it's all trial and error for me. I'm hoping that it has the spring. Somebody said about travel. Well, that was my biggest thing when I took this thing and heated it up with a torch. I bent it up, I pulled it off in water. I knew that I needed a little bit more travel. Now I have it, so now when we try it, hopefully it'll have a little bit of spring and it doesn't shatter. I know I'm going to get some comments on the tempering of this thing. What I did is I brought this thing up to heat and I tempered just basically the tip of it. It didn't stick to the magnet. So then, once I turned around and put this back on the magnet, this stuck to the magnet. That's why I went ahead and dipped the whole thing down into the oil. I did that with both sides. I just tried to temper the tip as best as I could. Now, you see me put it back into the forge. I heated it up from the back end first. Let it heat up, and you can see the blue color coming up here. And as the blue got down into here, the tips started to turn bronze. That's when I took the tips and stuck them in the oil after they turned a bronze color. I put them in the oil, cooled them off the best that I could. I kept swirling it around in there. I did that with both sides. I'm hoping that I got a good temper on there and not too much of a temper that this thing shatters when I hit it with a hammer. So I'm going to go ahead and get the back of this guy drilled out, put my pin in there. I have a piece of metal I threw in the forge there. I shaped up a piece of knife. It's not made out of coil spring and it's not made out of leaf spring. It's just a piece of metal. I don't really want to try it on a knife yet. I just want to make sure this guy works. So I'm going to go ahead and drill this out, put the pin in it. We're going to heat up some metal, put it in here and see what happens. And by the way, I love them comments, and I don't care if you don't know anything about forging. Put your comment on there. I enjoy each and every comment. Another one. What does this thing do? If you notice on some of the knives, let me show you. I'll do a picture. My boy was doing a knife here. Let me show you. Okay, you haven't seen this video yet, but my son's making a knife. This is pretty much almost the actual size of this knife he's been making. But if you notice on some of the knives, they'll have a groove and it's cut out sort of like this. that is the groove that I want to put in a knife. It's just a beveled out edge that's just bounds down in there, and it just kind of bevels it out. So you have just a little bit of an indentation on both sides. That is what that thing is supposed to do. So if you didn't know what a fuller is, that's what a fuller is right there. It's the piece that goes in the center of the knife. So basically that's what it's supposed to do, and that's what we're here to find out, if I can build a tool that'll actually do it. Alright, now to keep these straight on here, what I've done is I put a piece of tape around these to try to keep these as straight as I can from them moving around. I'm probably going to clean these up a little bit once I get it drilled out and put that in, so these line up real good. So I'm not going to drill through the same hole, because if I don't line it up with the other side, it's probably going to break my little bit. So I'm going to drill it back just a little bit from that one, right in there, and we're going to hope for the best. Okay, we're through. Now we're going to go ahead and drive our pen in there. We'll just grind that off and we'll have our pen. We'll take this tape back off and get her cleaned up. Alright, I think this thing's ready. Now I took a little bungee cord and stuck it over the back of this hardy hole piece just to keep it from bouncing around too much. That'll help hold it down. It's probably not a great idea, but I'm going to try it. I got it set up right here. We're going to go ahead and heat up a piece of steel and see if we can get this thing to work. Alright, you guys know how it is. Make it or break it. We're going to find out right now what happens. We're just going to try a small piece of this. See what happens. Seemed to work out pretty decent. Get you a better view. We're going to do it again. It wanted to curve on me. It kind of wanted to shape in a banana type shape. But I'll try it again and see what happens here. Maybe I need to put this back a little bit. Maybe bring the fuller down to the edge a little bit more. I don't know. We're going to heat it up and give it another shot. At least it didn't blow to pieces. Alright, I'm going to give you a little close-up of what it had done to the metal. You can see it's got a pretty good groove. You know, this is the first time I've tried this tool, so, you know, it's something that I'm going to have to get used to. Definitely made a nice groove on both sides, almost exactly the same. I should have, you know, I need to learn to hold it against that guard. Excuse me, just a little bit better, but I think it did what I wanted it to do. I will try to round the edges a little more so they're not square in there. Other than that, I think it worked out pretty good. This job's been a learning process for me too. I hope I answered most of the questions. This does have the spring to it. I did get these tempered. It did not phase the tips on these at all. I think I got them right. If I find out later down the road I need a couple braces under this to keep this guy from wiggling back and forth, we can do that. I will get some bigger bolts, put them on there, and bend them over to make them handles. By no means would I ever call this a fail, because I learned not to cool this down with water, that's for sure. We made our new piece here. Now we can beat directly on the top instead of beating out here on the outside edge. I think this is going to be an okay working tool. I learned a lot by using it, and I will learn more in the years to come for different things that I may be able to use this for. So I'd like to tell everybody thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave me thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment if you'd like. Click the little bell down in the bottom corner if you want the alerts. Hey, till next time.